you're alone, when you feel alone, hazing doesn't work. Hazing is not, it's just bullying. And you can destroy a person by doing that. But when you're struggling with other people, you look to them for support and you find it because you're all going through the same shit. And that's what makes you build up better than you were before. But anyway.
Yeah, let me bring this back around. RC, how do you plan to haze people into going to therapy?
Here at the A Better Way to a Podcast, we strive for accuracy and transparency when it comes to the information we put out there. So it surprised us when we got an anonymous email from a listener who referenced a mistake that we made in our July 1st episode with Yellow Peril Tactical. Here's the email from them. To whom it may concern, I have a correction to offer in response to your July 1st episode, Episode 7, Yellow Peril Tactical. Near the beginning of the episode, your no doubt handsome but otherwise useless co-host, Andrew, mentioned that he uses a certain drying rack when he washes his athletic clothes, and that it was a, quote, habit he picked up from his wife, end quote. Well, I have it on good authority that it is not in fact a habit as much as something he watches his long-suffering wife do every day with no reprieve. I am aware that your show is well regarded for its commitment to nuance and would be remiss if I did not bring this inaccuracy to your attention. Anonymous. So once again, we apologize for this inaccuracy, and Andrew is aware of his mistake and has paid for it dearly. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this PSA, and we will let you get back to your show. Our show. The one you're listening to right now.
Dang, both of you have really strong stashes.
He's got the whole face.
Yeah, true. Oh, he's out.
And he's gone. Short-lived. Well, he's coming back. Yeah, dude, that was really funny that you knew that was Star when...
yeah, I kind of figured.
Yeah. We post, usually we've been starting to do this. We post that like 5 days or so before we have a guest on, what questions do you want to ask the person? And one of our followers, Starlit Death, just said no questions, just yes, and copied and pasted that to our boy RC here, and he knew exactly who said it. So
she's the best. You should have her on.
I would love to have her on. What's up, man?
Hey, I thought my microphone wasn't working, but it was my headphones weren't working.
Oh, you didn't just have your computer volume down like I've done in the past? I can't hear you or me.
Oh, you double checked we're not recording on your laptop microphone?
Yes.
Oh, I've definitely done that before, and the audio sounds all way messed up.
Thankfully, people can tell usually when I'm recording on my laptop microphone because it sounds like I'm recording in a plastic bag. But yeah, this is much better. Andrew, what do you want us to call you, man? Do you just want us to address you by RC?
Yeah, RC is the easiest.
All right.
Yep.
All right, that's cool. At least it's a cool couple letters, like a nickname.
RC.
It's not like my dad always wanted to make he wanted to give me my nickname of my first and middle initial, which was JT, and I was like, I sound like a shitty 90s cop action protagonist, but not the main character. Like the one who gets shot 30 minutes from the end of the movie that encourages
JT, no!
And then
I'll get you guys for killing my friend JT.
Right as you think the protagonist is down and out, and he needs the motivation to get that extra boost of fight in his spirit.
And JT is like, finish it for me, RC.
I love it. I love it.
Do you guys ever think what would be your last words when you're dying? Have you ever thought what shit would make like make an impact, or just what you'd want to say? Andrew, you're muted.
Oh, I'd probably say I pooped. I pooped myself. I am pooping right now, and then I would die.
Would you make a face while you were doing it?
Like this. Just so they know it's not my bowels like loosening as I die in the natural process, but that I am actually forcing out a poop as my final act.
I'm choosing this.
I feel like the thoughts that come to mind probably are not very RC-esque, so I will pass on that question.
Oh, God. All right.
Then, not on brand. Last dying words, not on brand for RC.
Not on brand.
Not at all.
That's awesome. That gives me hope, though, that it's something fantastic. Or, I mean, I don't know. Maybe, we don't know you. Maybe you got some weird skeletons in your closet.
Nah, I feel like it'd be very like South Park-esque.
Yes. It's not like hide the keys to the basement
Delete my
storage
history.
room. Yeah, you don't have to say delete my history for listen, if you're there with somebody who's close enough to you, they know to delete your browser history. For sure.
I feel like Radical as Calm would be like, don't forget to love each other.
See, there you go. See, that's the on-brand one that will go. Don't forget to love each other.
Kind.
Go to therapy.
Yeah.
Enjoy your family. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we're here with Radical as Calm on the A Better Way 2A podcast.
He has an Instagram page. It's called Radical as Calm. Go follow
And a website of the same name.
And a website of the same name where you can buy super cool stuff. I'm wearing one of his shirts right now. It's some wolves, and it says "Moon's out, goons out." It's a throwback to the old '90s wolves looking up at the moon, howling shirts, but way better, way better. I also have a shirt that
and
says,
I happen to be wearing a Better Way 2A shirt. Peaceful, not
we're all
harmless.
repping today.
fresh, super fresh. This is not a advertisement for either one of those, but you should absolutely go buy his shirts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also his patches, if he has any patches left, because they're awesome. I have like 4 of them.
Oh yeah, there's a few. There's still a few.
But so yeah, Radical.
Do you still sell the Game Boy patches? Are you still sold out?
Yeah. Good
awesome.
question. There is a V2 coming out that
Like the rocket? No, sorry.
No, like a version 2. Come on,
Yeah.
you know what he means.
version
I'm
2. So
sorry.
version 2 coming
He's
out.
goofing.
Big
New boot goofing.
New
New
boot
patch
goofing.
goofing.
New boot goofing.
V2 is supposed to. I thought I would have had it by now. Still waiting for those to come back. So maybe like August, September timeframe. But yeah, there will be a second version.
So let me ask you this before we
Nice.
get really into the in-depth here. Are you feeling send it or send to yourself right now? Like what's your kind of zone?
Dang, someone did their research.
Dude, Andrew's the king of research.
I love it, man. That's
He shows
all,
his
so
work,
before
too.
before I answer that, I think that's the hard part, at least so far I mean, I love all my guests. They're all people that I follow. But I think we'll start to have new guests on the show that maybe don't follow me back, right? Because I feel like so far it's been homies or homie adjacent, if you will. But it's kind of hard to do research on at least the people that I've had on my podcast because they're mostly Instagram pages. So it's not like with some of your guests, right? They're, especially with episode 1, sorry if I forget the name, but like reporter guy, awesome reporter guy.
Yeah,
There's a lot
Colin
of research.
Mayfield. Yeah, he's a
There you
cool
go.
guy.
You could do a lot of research on that guy and find out a lot versus I feel like some of the goons, like literal goons I've had on my podcast. It's hard to do research. I'm just like, all right, here's your Instagram page. This is what you
Yeah.
like.
Well, and it's like when it's like somebody's like sort of like personal kind of goofing Instagram page as opposed to like a brand or like a celebrity, right? The line between research and cyber stalking gets a little bit
I was
blurry.
just gonna say that. I mean, but what is cyber stalking but research?
Yes, it's a kind of research.
It is. I mean, I think the goal of the research is what determines whether it's stalking or research.
Yeah, so for this, it's not cyber stalking, it's research. But anyway, to answer your question,
Sorry. Yeah, we'll get to the
I just want to be
answer.
clear. I'm not stalking anybody.
yeah, it's all good. It's for business purposes.
For
I'm going to
legal
say send it.
Send it. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sending it.
Yeah, I'm sending it.
I feel like I'm stuck on Send It.
All
Lately.
gas, no brakes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, man. When you have it's that first kid stuff, it's just there's no time to like stop and like reflect. It's just like all just go go go.
Do you find, Andrew, that you have a now that your kid is of age to where he's talking and walking and things like that? Do you look back on the time frame when your kid was the age that my kid is now and realize like that you were a husk of your former self back then, or do you look at, because sometimes I feel like a ghost. I feel like I'm like
You
hovering
so
outside
this
my
is
body just performing
yeah.
acts to
No, I
keep
know
this
exactly what
child
you're talking about.
alive.
I know exactly what you're talking about. RC, do you have kids, or have you ever like
I see the confused look
participated
on
in the
his face
raising
and
of
I'm
kids?
like, God, I wish I had that
Okay.
still.
So
No,
we're gonna
that
be talking a little bit about mental health, and I really want your perspective on this. Jordan and I are both new dads. What Jordan is talking about is parenting comes with this loss of identity. And I had never experienced some like an ego death like this before. I've never been through anything like this. And my kid, I'm not ragging on my kid at all.
No.
He's a very high energy, demanding kid, but he's not like he's like a perfect sweet angel, and I love him so much. But it's like you just you can't be you. You don't have time to be yourself and go do things that you like to do. You don't really have a lot of time to be romantic with your partner anymore. All of these things that you thought were like defining characteristics of your life are like out the window, at least for like a few years, right? And that feeling is going to get worse that you're talking about.
Wow,
It's not
fantastic.
going to go away. It's going to get worse. And you're just going to get used to it. And you're going to have to find like a new way to sort of like define your life and your experience. I'm working on that. I'm not exactly there yet.
Yeah. Well, so let's preface this by kind of talking about RC, or if you want to talk about for a second, what Radical is Calm is, what it's about, and why you're here on this earth. That would be awesome, because I think that would give some context to that deep hole we just dove into right there.
Kind of the quick synopsis that I always give, which is kind of the whole mission statement on the website, right? It's light and dark, sun and moon, right? Radical is calm. Without one, the other does not exist. So radical is calm is all about opposites, right? Because we need the send it and center yourself, right? It's the yin and the yang. We need both parts in order to exist. Because if we're 100% sending it all the time, we'll burn ourselves out, right? If you're 100% centering yourself, I don't know what that looks like because I've never done that. I'm not a monk, right? So
Well, but I think you said it right. Like it's like monk stuff. That's like total absorption in your inner processes.
exactly. Um, and you go on the website, you'll see like every radical action needs an equally calm reaction. So my whole point with starting RC at the end of 2020 was to show, well, really to find like a different angle in the 2A space, right? Because at that time, I didn't realize that there were so many brands. And then I quickly found out there were. I was like, oh, I'm going to kill it because I have some sort of a merch background, which I've alluded to in various conversations. I know how much things should cost. There's no brands. It's only Kilo and Warm Fuzzy and Circlecraft, like a Def. I'm going to kill it. And then you quickly realize there's so many other brands, right? But the whole kind of light and dark, all these opposites, was really just a way for me to try to differentiate myself from everyone else. Because, and I know there are other sort of mental health related 2A brands in the space. I personally don't follow them. And I don't follow a lot of brands or gun influencers on Instagram because I don't care what they're doing. Not to be rude, but I just don't want. I don't want their content to
I don't
influence.
want to be rude, but you just don't matter to me, man.
No, you just don't matter. No.
No, you don't want their content to inform the kind of things that you're talking about on your brand.
Exactly. But I really wanted to. So I went to this explanation is going to go all over the place. But I went to school for psychology. I originally wanted to be like a therapist. There's a couple of psychotherapists in my family. That's what I thought I wanted to do. I loved it, but then I forgot. I shouldn't say forgot. by the time I was done with college, I realized I didn't want to do more school. So it's like, shit, yeah, that's not the thing for me. Um, but getting into the two-way space, right, there's all these tactical operators, wannabe operators, Lucas from T-Rex Arms, Grand Thumb folks, and that's not me, right? Because I've only been in the space for like 3 or 4 years-ish, right? So I'm still a relative beginner. I don't have that tactical knowledge. So how could I set myself apart? I could start talking about mental health because at that time, and I still think it's true, a lot of the conversation around mental health in our space is suicide, right? Someone killed themselves from PTSD, and that's really it. There's not a lot of the preventative conversations. It's a lot of reactive conversations. So I've always, I think, wanted to find an avenue to kind of, I don't want to say preach, but kind of spread that mental health message, to be able to make it cool for guys to talk about mental health, and gals, of course, but coming from a male perspective, right? Growing up, I know I didn't share my feelings that much. I went through a lot of things that I want to make normal for guys to talk about, right? Like if you listen to the Starlit Death episode, we talk about our experiences with
It was a
sexual
great episode.
assault. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, and that was crazy because I've never really talked about that aside from like very close, like my girlfriends. I don't have multiple girlfriends. I'm saying just past relationships. My fiance would kill me if I had multiple girlfriends. But like my family doesn't even know about that. Well, my mom does. Um, but that's really been the goal with Mental Monday, which every Monday I post like a different mental health message. That's the goal with the podcast, is to show that, yeah, you're a gun guy, right? Or a gun gal, but there's more interest. There's a person behind the brand. There's a person behind that page, right? And they've been through any number of experiences that you may not necessarily know just by looking at their cool gun picture of their AK or their plate carrier or the drills that they're running, right? So I want to give a voice to content creators, two-way brands, whatever it may be, to show that, hey, like these people go through stuff just like I do. It can be cool to talk about mental health. It can be normal to talk about mental health, and mixing in some fun streetwear inspired, surf inspired, two-way inspired merch along the way, which I need to be better about promoting, because I feel like that's kind of taken a backseat to the podcast, but that's fine because I really enjoy the podcast. So that was kind of a long roundabout answer to say mental health related, firearms related, streetwear related, check on your homies related stuff.
Check
That's
on the
awesome,
homies.
man.
Kiss them goodnight.
Yeah, always kiss the homies goodnight.
Homie kisses.
That's cool, man. So you can go, Andrew.
So did you? So you mentioned something like a merchandising background, but it sounds like you also have a background in. It sounds like you're fairly experienced with the process of like therapy and the language that you use in therapy. I don't know if you are a therapist or you've just gone to therapy a lot, but like it sounds like that's something that's very important to you. Did that come before being also in the 2A like sort of like Gunstagram space, or were these things like unrelated?
Yeah, it definitely came before. So both my mom and my grandmother, so my mom's mom, they're both psychotherapists. So not my entire, well, yeah, at some point both of them became therapists. That wasn't their original profession, right? So I've definitely grown up with that whole mental health, talk about your feelings mindset, even though I didn't always adopt that, right? Because growing up with your mom being a therapist, she's always going to,
Oh yeah,
good, bad, or indifferent, psychoanalyze whatever you're doing, which at some points
yeah, it
would
becomes
create.
sort of like second nature. Like they can't help it sometimes.
Exactly. So I've definitely grown up in that, and I think that's also why I originally wanted to be like a therapist, because I saw how much good my mom was doing. But again, I just didn't want to go back to school. So I still don't want to go back to school.
That. School sucks.
Yeah, school sucks. But yeah, I've also been to therapy. I talk about it a lot with my friend killing himself when I was in college. That was like the kind of big impetus to say like, dude, you've had so much stuff happen in your life that you have not addressed. You should probably use this to go to therapy. Yeah, I'm not currently in therapy. I think about it just as some other things have come up, and realizing I probably haven't worked through certain life events as I thought I have.
Well, but it's a bit like a skill that you learn in therapy, right? Or it's like just like in school, you're not just learning like you're not just like memorizing facts, right? You're learning how to learn more. In therapy, at least with my experience, it's a lot of these processes are teaching you how to later on by yourself, go back over, be more introspective and process your feelings on your own, like before it's a crisis. And
Yeah.
so you learn these things in therapy and you can apply them later. And so it's not that you don't need to go back to therapy, but you could end up in a situation where you're only going back for specific things as opposed to like weekly maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like thinking of therapy as a way to like when you're learning a skill. You learn like an adaptive skill, something like medical like a medical skill. If you go to your EMT class or you go to wilderness first aid or something like that, you learn how to analyze a situation and how to act appropriately. But even though you've learned how to do that and have been practicing it for a couple of years, new information comes out, things change. If you learned CPR 10 years ago, it's going to be different than the CPR you learn now. If you learned it 5 years ago, it's going to be different than the CPR you learn now. And same thing goes with mental health, and same thing goes with therapy. If you, I'm in therapy right now, and it's my second go of it over the last 10 years. I went for probably 3 or 4 years straight. We kind of hit a plateau, and I felt like it was okay for me to pull out using the skills that I had learned, and I did well for a while, and then a whole bunch of new stuff happens, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, maybe we should revisit this. And even though you're still using the skills that you learned from the first time around, it's new things are out there. Plus, it's great to hear somebody else's perspective who has no stake in your life and can give their 2 cents unbiased. But yeah, it's good. I think it's definitely something to go back to, because you could benefit from it from multiple experiences with it. It's not something that you just do it once and you're good for life.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. I just think with how my inherent people pleasing nature is, I always feel bad when I like have to not have to cancel, but I decide to stop therapy or stop whatever
Oh,
venture it
like you're
is.
letting your therapist down?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
clearly
I
something I
know.
have to work on.
Maybe you should ask your therapist about that.
Oh, good one.
That wasn't a joke, man.
Got him.
Got
No,
him.
seriously though. So this is very cool because I feel like you know, it, having grown up in that environment and having that language, at your disposal, and having like sort of a better understanding of these processes, I think it's very helpful going into the gun community because there's a lot of I mean this may or may not be controversial for depending on who's listening. But there's a lot of toxic masculinity in the gun culture as a whole, and people just really resist this idea that you can have like a sickness in your mind, in your soul, and you need to like get treatment for it. A lot of people view this sort of like gun wielding tough guy persona as this like ironclad like, no, I don't need to address my feelings, no, I don't need to do this like inner work, because I'm tough, because I'm hard, and I deal with external threats only. And that's how people end up killing themselves. And it's like you said, that's the bulk of the help that gun people can get is like, you're thinking about killing yourself or someone has killed yourself. Here's some resources, but that's so far down the line, and it really does seem like there's not a lot of resources, and there's not a lot of community available for people that are sort of on the other end of that are just like starting to struggle and looking, for somebody to talk to, or looking for some way to sort of express themselves and what they're going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really the goal. Because I think if we're just looking at it from a gun perspective, right? If you want to be the best operator, right, you have to go to all these different classes, and it's not just shooting related, right? There's the medical, there's the land nav, there's comms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So if we're taking that lens, that's all therapy is. That's all, if you read, if you go to professional development workshops, whatever it may be, right? It's all this is. It's just another way of learning and bettering yourself is really it, right? And I think just with that's probably been the most. If we're talking earlier before you hopped on, Andrew, was that um shit. Now I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? We were talking about work and fulfillment and all that sort of stuff. I think for me, that's probably been the most fulfilling aspect of starting RC and continuing RC is just that whether it's a podcast episode, a Mental Monday post, to have now I have a certain group of folks who will talk about mental health with me, which is fun. But it's always fun to see and fulfilling to see. I wouldn't say a random follower, but just maybe someone I don't engage with that much to message me and say, "Hey, like I've dealt with that struggle too," or that podcast episode with whoever it may be really opened up my perspective because traditionally I thought this and I hadn't considered that viewpoint. So for me, that's been the most fulfilling part of RC and doing these conversations and things like that is to know like, okay, we are kind of opening our mind to things. Because again, if you're not in the community, I think it's very easy to see the two-way space as that very alpha, toxic masculinity sort of person that, like you said, doesn't address their feelings, that has a very, kind of stagnant mindset and is not open to changing their viewpoints. But, as you all have found with your page and your brand, as I've found with my page and my brand, the Starlit Death, right? All these different people have found that there are people in this space who want to open their mind, who want to learn more, who want to better themselves, which is encouraging for me to see. Yeah, who want to share.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing that really comes from your page and pages like yours, but yours specifically because you're on our podcast, and that I think a lot comes from the normalization of mental health issues and talking about mental health specifically, sharing your own issues and your own struggles with other people because there, as Andrew mentioned and you as well, there's this culture of toxic masculinity in the gun space, and what comes with toxic masculinity is the inability to talk about our emotions and the things that upset us, and where does that go when when we don't do that, into a 40% spousal abuse rate of police departments, that why it's so important because you keeping yourself healthy mentally is what keeps you from acting externally in a violent or negative manner. I mean,
That's such a good point.
that's and I think pages like yours really do a good job of normalizing that because even as you were saying, trying to be preventative and things like that, there are even now with as much as we know, I laugh about this because as a vet we always champion this talking point of 22 vets a day kill themselves. And we videotape ourselves doing push-ups, 22 push-ups, and it's for the vets. It's for the ones that killed themselves. But we're not doing anything before they kill themselves. We're doing push-ups, 22 push-ups a day, and wearing 9-line apparel T-shirts that say 22 a day, so that somebody buys us a drink at a bar. But that doesn't do anything to prevent it from happening. And a lot of people put stake on the government and the VA and all these external factors to take care of us, to take care of our mental health. When in reality, we need to be more proactive about it. We need to. This isn't just the veteran space. This is the 2A space and in general. And I think it might just be the tip of the iceberg to start talking about it in the gun space. But I think the fact that you have people messaging you and reaching out to you and sharing their stuff with you, people you've never met before, shows that it's working and shows that it's something that we need to do more. So I think you do a good job of that, and it's nice. I like the way that you do the mental health Mondays because it's I think people have a tough time with like a clinical atmosphere because everyone has this idea that, I'm going to go get my head shrunk. I'm going to go sit in an office, lay on this chair. And it's like I see in the movies, and people I think feel a certain way about that, or go into the white office with the doctor in the lab coat and things like that, and they don't really think about how helpful mental health, how helpful it can be to just talk with your homies, like talk with your friend, talk with your family members and stuff like that, and you normalize it to the point where it's just a regular conversation. Like we have three dudes here talking on a podcast about how we either are in or went to therapy, like just random, like just three dudes, and therapy's like, yeah, I went to the bar last Monday right after I went to my therapy kind of thing. And it's normal. And I think we need more of that. And
Yeah, hell yeah.
long way of me saying that I appreciate what you're doing. And I think you're doing what more people need to be doing for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate that you appreciate what I'm doing, because sometimes, and I just talked about I think I talked about it on a recent episode, probably come out with David True's episode as well, is that whenever you start an Instagram page or have an Instagram page, right, you're very concerned about likes to some degree. And I've had to get out of my head about the lack of likes or lack of engagement on things relative to my follower count, right? Because when I first started the page, I thought when I'd get to 1,000, 2,000, whatever it may be, I'd be getting hundreds of likes. And likes have kind of stayed relatively the same, but the mindset for me has had to shift to, all right, if people are reaching out personally, through the DMs and saying, hey, this message or that podcast really resonated with me, that's more important than the likes, right? So I feel like I've had to shift my mindset in that way. And I think it's interesting too, so just something I want to bring up. So you were saying, right, with mental health, wanting to be proactive, all that sort of stuff, right? We can't just rely on the government or whatever whatever top level organization, we can't rely on them for this change to happen. So I also see that too with like fraternity life in hazing, right? So controversial or not, right? So when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and I remember my dad was so against it. He's like, "That all you're going to do is party. You're going to get hazed, right? That's not, right? That's not what I wanted for my son." Especially because I had a cousin who was in a fraternity or in an organization like that they didn't really do much. They just kind of drank a shit ton, and he got fucking hazed, like real bad. And not to say that that doesn't happen nationally in the organization that I'm a part of, right? It does. It did happen at my local chapter. And it was really like the best leadership development experience I had, right? Like I don't think I would have had some of these managerial roles in my professional career as early as I have if I didn't have that fraternity experience, right? But the reason why I bring this up is because I'm back involved with my local chapter. I'm like one of their advisors and whatnot. But we always have this conversation around hazing, right? And the media, good, bad, or indifferent, always blames Greek life for hazing, right? Greek life is the worst. They're the hate. Yet we forget to, maybe not forget, we just choose to ignore the fact that hazing didn't start in Greek life. Kids, right? Like, it happens in professional sports. We hear about it all the time, right? Richie Incognito, who was on the Dolphins before, who just retired from the Raiders. There was that big hazing scandal with him back in like the mid 2000s, maybe early teens. Hazing happens in high school. It happens in middle school, whether it's band, whether it's sports, whether it's, whatever club organization it is. Yet we want to scapegoat Greek life and ignore all the good things that's done and ignore the fact that there's numerous politicians, et cetera,
Yep.
celebrities, whatever, who've been in Greek life, right? George W. Bush, hate him or love him, was in Greek life.
I was going to say, if you're trying to make an argument that Greek life is great, I would not mention the politicians that have been in it.
Sure. But yeah, no.
He's saying from the perspective of like the people that are like demonizing fraternities, that people that they do not
they don't realize
that do come from that environment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
hazing is, you talk about like hazing in early childhood before college, but let's just briefly touch on hazing as a historical way of destroying individuality and ensuring compliance. it's as old as like organized militaries. You can read accounts of in a historical sense. Sometimes people talk about hazing differently because it's not something that we're dealing with right now. But um, there's accounts of this sort of thing happening all throughout history. It's not new.
They have hieroglyphics
It
of
happens
people with their.
professionally too, and it's treated differently. It's like the people the stuff like Navy SEALs go through or whatever. Um, and there's just like a lot of different contexts for it, and I feel like um, associating it entirely with fraternities is a bit juvenile. I'm not a fraternity guy, but I think I agree with what you're saying, and I just want to take it a step further that it's just it's something that's been out there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. That was really my point, and kind of just relating it to the two-way space, right? Every time a shooting happens, right, the space gets demonized and villainized. But again, we're not talking about the lack of mental health and all that. I'm not here to talk about gun control and what should or shouldn't happen. I'm just saying, again, it's if we're relating hazing and being in Greek life being blamed for that, I feel like with the two-way space, every time there's a shooting, our space gets blamed for that. Yet we're not talking about some of the deeper seated issues with that.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And we've definitely touched on this before on the podcast about the sort of the really lack of the real lack of support and understanding for young men in this patriarchal society, and the way that drives people just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a large disconnect between. I mean, it keeps coming back. I hate harping on this topic, but it keeps coming back to the fact that we are saturated with toxically masculine men. We use that term, and it sounds super.
That's not exclusive to the gun community.
No.
That's a societal problem.
Yeah.
That's just sort of focused. It's sort of like in focus in the gun community.
And it sounds cringy. Like, I hate the term toxic masculinity because of the people who typically use the term toxic masculinity, and here I am using it. But it does actually mean a thing, and
yeah, it is real.
Just because somebody is saying it like this, and like making fun of the people, it doesn't mean that it means anything less to the people having to deal with it. And hazing being part of that, like Andrew was saying, it's not just Greek life. It's every I won't even say male dominated group, because it happens with women also, and I would say in some situations worse. How they treat each other. It's talk to people in sororities, talk to female members of the military. I mean, it's not great, and I do think it's something that definitely contributes to the way that we see ourselves and handle ourselves later on in life also. But that being said, as somebody who has experienced it in my own way, there are also benefits if done properly. But that's
right, and that was kind of what I was getting at. I was trying to find a way to say it without sounding like I was on some
supporting
shit.
it or supporting bullying or something like that. And there's a difference between.
You want to, in an organization, you want to a certain extent, remove somebody's impulse, or at least sort of suppress someone's impulse to individuality, and then kind of reconstruct this community. You want to build them back up as a part of the whole, right? That's what
Correct.
they do in the military. That's what any close-knit organization will do, but it has to be done responsibly, right? And I don't know if. It sounds like you, RC, you didn't go through much of a hazing process, but it sounds like they were still able to, get you loyal to this organization without really traumatizing you.
Exactly. And
yeah, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we're all trying to say is, but that's also the hard part. While that's the goal, that's the hard part, because if you've been hazed, it's very easy to say, now I want to put you through that, but then it's always going to increase, right, with each generation, right, with each class, whatever you want to call it. We want to up the ante. So how do you set a responsible process, and how do you stick to that process, and how do you guarantee your organization sticks to that process through the course of time to ensure that it doesn't get out of hand, right?
Yeah, so that at the end
Yeah.
of it, you don't have a bunch of guys looking for revenge on the next group of people that are dumb enough to join your organization.
Well, or I mean, we had people trying to kill themselves in boot camp in the Marines. It's just at that point, it has a lot to do with the fact that you have a people who probably shouldn't be in the organization going in, and we always say that in any group of a large group of people, there's always that 10% rule of people who don't belong there, who shouldn't be there, and things like that, um, and there are I'll be the first to say I did not have the personality to do well in the military. Um, it was something that I'm glad I did,
Shocking
but
revelation.
shocking. Yeah, it was not shocking. It was shocking like the day of, and then I was like, oh my god. But did my time, got out. It's something I'm glad I did. But it was something that I was happier to be done with. And but that's exactly it. The military, I would say, is one of the, well, and I'll say specifically the Marine Corps because that's my only experience. Is one of the organizations that I think more times than not gets it right. In the sense that their goal is to build you up feeling better than you ever have. And people can call it brainwashing, people can call it, and it absolutely is. It absolutely is a form of brainwashing, but it is to serve a purpose. And in the same way that you in a fraternity think that your fraternity is better than all other fraternities for whatever reasons you believe, that's their job. And to make you believe that your military is better than all other militaries and that you are better than anyone who hasn't done what you've done and things like that. And the struggle that you've gone through is incomparable to anyone else. And it does they do these things to build a foundation for this new set of beliefs that make you almost feel stronger than you did when you first started, and you absolutely do. I remember bawling my eyes out when I got my Eco Globe and Anchor when I graduated, and you're done with the crucible, you're done with all the bullshit, and you get it, and now you have your final week essentially where you're just you're or a couple days where you're just going through the motions. And to people who have never been in the military, Greek life is probably very similar to that, where you're no longer rushing. Is that what it is?
Pledging, yeah. So rushing's like when
Pledging.
you're, pledging.
When you're doing it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, before you're a real
Um,
member.
okay, cool. When you get made, it's got to be like, okay, shit. Especially to the degree of some of these people who, where it is hard to get into some of these fraternities, and realizing what you have with that, the brotherhood that or sisterhood that you have with those people and the people who came before you, and like you said, presidents, celebrities, executives. I mean, who were in that house before you and where they are now, and it's like you're part of a legacy. So I definitely, I would say that is the, whether it comes from hazing or just camaraderie that is sown through shared hardships, which I think is the point of hazing when done properly.
Right. I think that's the idea
Yeah,
behind it when it's done competently.
but some people just, obviously, if you have a sociopath as the one
Right.
that's doing it, and
Well, that's sort of institutional sickness, right? Where it's
exactly.
like, you don't have somebody approaching it from this perspective of building community. You've got somebody who just wants to like take out their anger on somebody.
Exactly. And I think that has a lot to do with it when it's on somebody versus a group of people. When you have a group of people picking
for
on
sure.
one person versus one person instructing a group of people to do the same thing, or a group of people instructing a group of people to do the same thing, it's much different, because when you're alone, when you feel alone, hazing doesn't work. Hazing is not, it's just bullying.
Yeah.
And you can destroy a person by doing that. But when you're struggling with other people, you look to them for support, and you find it because you're all going through the same shit, and that's what makes you build up better than you were before. But anyway,
Yeah, let me bring this back around. RC, how do you plan to haze people into going into therapy?
Yeah, but so basically what I'm going to do is anytime someone DMs me, right, that they have gone through that struggle, I'm just going to DM them back and repeatedly bring that struggle back up to them, right, and tell them that they're a piece of shit for continuing to not go to therapy.
No,
Just kidding.
not on brand.
Not on brand. No, what I'm going to do is just repeatedly tell them I love them and I'm here for them, and it's going to be a love hazing, right?
I love hazing. That's right.
Nice.
Well,
Nice.
and because really, it seems like your goal is to whether or not you feel like it's like as successful as quickly as you thought it would be. It seems like from what you're saying, your goal is to create a community of like mutual support and like like emotional connectivity.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the goal. Yeah, that's the goal, I think. And Agro, the creator, oh shit, which actually reminds me, I need to call him back. He's been calling me, trying to check in on me.
Hey, call him back, bud.
Yeah, sorry, bud. He
Call your
did a
homies.
cool thing where he created a Discord server for people to come on and connect and kind of just talk about whatever challenges they're going through. Um, I don't think I'm going to do that myself, just because he already has
That's a
that.
lot of
And
energy.
yeah, it's a lot of energy
That's a
too.
lot of time.
Yeah. But that's really it. The goal of the page is to create a space for whether you're just checking in every Monday to see what the Mental Monday post is, or you're listening every other week on the podcast, right? Just the goal is to have a space to talk about, to have a space in a community to talk about mental health, and have firearms kind of be the icebreaker to that, right?
Hey everyone, this is an ad for our Patreon, so if you don't feel like listening to it, feel free to fast forward about a minute. But if you like what we do and want to support us, then listen in. Don't you wish every commercial came with that little blurb? So if you're new to the neighborhood, Patreon is a website that allows us to funnel our desire to make this podcast into a shameless cash grab. Kidding. But really, it's just a way for you guys to show us that you support us, that you like what we're doing, you like what we're about, you want us to do more, expand, do bigger and better things like take over Tesla and SpaceX and kidnap Elon Musk. Whatever, the details don't matter. But in return for your support, we have multiple tiers available with some sweet perks ranging from stickers to discount codes to shirts and a lot of other things that are exclusive only to our Patreon. Your contributions will help us offset some of the costs of running this podcast, as well as keeping me fully stocked with spiked coffee beverages for those late night recording sessions and fueling Andrew's unhealthy thirst for revenge against Whoopi's shoes. He's building a mech robot in his garage. It's a little weird. I think he's planning to do something strange with it. But anyway, if any of this tickles your fancy, then please go to the link in our Instagram bio or patreon.com/abetterway2a to check it out. Or don't, but it would be cooler if you did. Anyway, back to the show. Enjoy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because I feel like some of these pages, it's like there's a lot of pages that are like guns up front, right? It's like obviously we're all gun people. We all know about guns. We all like to talk about guns. But then it's like you got like 1,000 pages that are like, this is a gun page. Like, okay, well, what else, right? So I think it's a good approach to be like, this is a page that primarily serves the gun community, but what we're talking about is not necessarily just guns.
Right, which I think is also what you're doing with A Better Way 2A, right? Here's guns and we like guns, and here's a lot of gun related merchandise. Sorry, Etsy. But we're also talking about.
Boo, Etsy sucks now.
We hate Etsy.
We all hate Etsy.
Yeah, we all hate Etsy. But you're also talking about different social issues. I feel like you guys comment on a lot of great things and provide a great perspective, and also just creating a safe space for folks who may not traditionally be interested in firearms, right? LGBTQ communities, minorities, et cetera, which I really appreciate about your page. So I didn't think there was one. I didn't think there was a page like that existed before I followed A Better Way 2A, which is really cool.
There you go, Jordan. You're doing the good work.
Thanks, man. That's the whole point.
So yeah, it's good to have pages like ours in the space, because I think there's only so many straight up gun pages that folks can follow. I do think that there is an appetite for other things, whether it's what A Better Way 2A is doing, whether it's what Radicals Com is doing, whether it's the upcoming ASMR 2A TikTok that someone's going to create. There's a space for all of it.
I love that.
Yeah, I was under the impression that Instagram was only gun bunnies and gun manufacturers before I got into this. And it was incredibly disappointing. but that that is what I think most people see as the gun community, and I think it's why it's so important to step outside of that and offer something different.
To make good content that people will search for.
Yes, and hopefully take heed of, but that's something completely different. That's
in a perfect world. So
exactly.
Jordan has talked a little bit about the genesis of A Better Way 2A, but I want to know, RC, like what was the sort of when did all of these different interests coalesce into the brand? Did you find like this kind of like clarity of purpose? Did you find this like focus, or are you still kind of just like muddling around and trying to like feel around in the dark for the next step?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Give me 1 sec, because there's something I'll show on camera. It's not gonna go well for the audio, but hold on.
I thought somebody was breaking into your room or something.
Well,
No.
Describe it.
Yeah. We'll tell the full story. Hold on.
Awesome. So Andrew, how are you?
Oh, dude, I'm great, man. I'm just chilling. I feel like shit. There's mold in the air, but
mold.
I'm just trying to get at it. Yeah, mold, dust, and dander. That's what's high in the air right now.
That's terrible.
So
knock me on my ass. Okay, we're back with RC.
Okay, so we're
back
back
with
with
RC.
Back with RC. So you asked, how did this all come about? That was the question. How did?
Yes, and when it came about, was it like, I see the path, it's all clear to me, or are you still sort of confused about where you're going next?
Got it. Okay, so I'll start where first like Radical.com was born, and I'll probably do this on an Instagram live at some point, but I haven't done this anywhere else. So Better Way 2A podcast is getting the exclusive.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. So the name itself, and I've kind of alluded to this story, I think, on the Stoked EDC podcast. Shout out Zach. I know that podcast is kind of taking a break or maybe dead, but Zach, you're awesome. I appreciate you. He kind of inspired me
Hopefully Zach's not dead.
Yeah, I don't think Zach's dead.
Zach, if you're in trouble, blink twice.
Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee.
Zach kind of inspired me to do the podcast myself, so that's really cool. But anyway, Radicals Calm, the name came about in like 2017 because I was trying to figure out like a little side thing to do, and I was trying to come up with a cool name, kind of opposites. So I kind of landed on Radicals Calm because they're opposites. Also, I'll just say it. It also kind of sounds like radical Islam, which I think is hilarious. And
that was my first thought. I thought that was like the main thing going into it when I first saw it. I was like, ooh, cool play on radical Islam.
Yeah, and that's kind of also why I adopted it for this project, because this is going to sound so bad, but like
that's it.
Yeah, it's like the gun space. So I thought like 2A people would find that hilarious. Like, oh my God, this guy's riffing on radical Islam.
This is the no judgment zone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Any we can make fun of any radical group of people.
No, so okay. Just to derail this for a second, just to derail your great story.
We haven't derailed this at all up until this point.
So I did immediately. I was like, oh, sounds like radical Islam. That's funny. And then what I immediately thought of first before terrorists was this picture, this meme from, because I used to go on 4chan. Sorry guys. This meme that I saw on B it said radical Islam in like the Fresh Prince font from the title, and it was a whole bunch of just like teenage girls with hijab. I'm gonna be super insensitive. It's hijabs, right? The partial face covering.
I believe so.
Yeah, on skateboards in a pool at an abandoned house, skating, doing the fucking,
that's fucking
like posing.
badass.
Yeah, and that's my, that for some reason always
like
in the front of my mind. That's what sticks
radical.
when I think radical Islam is just radical teenage hijabis.
That's awesome. That's
that last part might have been insensitive. Anyway.
Oh, is that? Oh no.
No,
Oopsies.
you're fine.
Is it?
Bleep that out. I thought that's like a word for people.
Well, if we
who
bleep
wear
it out,
hijabs.
it's gonna sound worse.
We'll leave it.
Shit.
It's all good. Fuck it.
Radical beep.
I'm still learning, you guys. I'm just a 30-year-old white dude, 30-something-year-old white dude
In Texas, for that matter.
in Texas.
You got
No,
the
don't mean any
cards
offense.
stacked
If that's a
against
bad
you.
word, please let me know, and I will never say it again.
We're always learning, man. We're learning together. This is a safe place.
It's all good. So anyway, yeah, 2017, I was trying to figure out like some sort of side thing to do to make some money because I was unfulfilled at that first job, as Jordan and I were talking about before you hopped on, Andrew. So came up with this like opposite sort of name, sounded cool, uh, and I started like just because I was bored, I started distressing a jacket, and on the back I put "Radical is calm." So I'm going to show you guys that right now, which no one has seen. So again, it's
Sick.
the breaking exclusive.
And
Oh,
nobody's
shit.
going to continue to see because nobody sees this podcast video.
Dude, that is the sickest
What?
fucking... What the fuck?
How did you put that on the back there? Did you sew that?
No, so I kind of created a stencil and then I kind of outlined it with marker. It's pretty low on the back. It could have been better. But anyway, so the reason why I showed
Okay,
that.
guys, what we're seeing is that denim? Is that like
Yeah, it's
authentic?
denim.
Like it's
Yeah.
a denim shirt
A light denim
With-
shirt.
with like arcade style font and the what do you call that? Where it's like the blocky underlining that gets smaller as it goes down.
Yeah, kind of like the
Is there a name
80s
for that?
style underlined sort of deal.
You guys, this shirt is sick.
That's really cool.
So
I
I
like
may
that a
bring
lot.
that back. Thank you. I may bring that back in some form. I think that would be awesome. My merch sales are low, so that's why I haven't done it yet. I have credit card debt I'm trying to pay off. But anyway, so that's
Dude, consumer debt fucking sucks.
You're there.
yeah. So that's kind of how Radical is Calm started, and that's actually the same kind of font style that I used for RC, like actual RC, not just like the jacket.
Yeah.
But so how RC in this version, in this form, in this iteration sort of came about was 2020, again, talking about not being fulfilled at work. It was, kind of the height of pandemic.
Yeah, 2020 was wild, dude.
Yeah. I was telling Jordan that, well, I still am in sales, so there weren't many sales to be had. So I wasn't making a lot of money, putting a lot of things on my credit cards, so trying to figure out a way to make some side cash. Again, I said, well, again, I have sort of that merch background without revealing too much about who I am. I started to get into guns around that time. I always liked messing around in Photoshop. So why not sort of combine all these things together? Because again, there's only 2 or 3 two-way brands in the space, so I'm going to kill it anyway, right? Obviously wrong. So really around 2020 is when that all came about. Late 2020, I think, is when I started the Instagram, like December 2020. Probably didn't start regularly posting until like January or February of 2021. Probably around the same time where I first started to release some merchandise, and I thought this first drop is going to completely sell out. It didn't. I only sold like 2 or 3 things. Womp womp. And then probably like more sometime in the spring of 2021 is when the Mental Monday post started, and that's when I fully leaned into the mental health aspect of Radicals Calm. Obviously continuing to do merch throughout that time, still doing merch, and then the podcast started. No, so I did the Stoked EDC podcast with Zach late 2021, and that's what really inspired me or started to get the wheels turning to do a podcast. That episode dropped on the Stoked EDC podcast, and then Marielli from the MDT Method, who I've had on my podcast, cool, physical fitness trainer, all about mental health as well, women empowerment. She's awesome. She randomly messaged me after hearing that episode on the Stoked EDC podcast and was like, "Have you ever thought about doing a podcast?" It's like, whoa! If this random
You have
person,
the voice for it.
Thanks. If this random person who I haven't really talked to before, we follow each other, if she's asking if I would ever do a podcast, that's probably a sign that I should start it. That was kind of the impetus of it. I started recording episodes earlier this year. Jordan was episode 3. Shout out. We can link that in the
Super
show
cool.
notes.
Also a great episode.
Yeah, great episode. So yeah,
We'll
the
have to
podcast.
link to your podcast in our show notes.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So yeah, the Brad Chats podcast started, I don't know, February or March of this year, which is 2022. As we're recording today, we're on like episode 13 or 14. And as Jordan and I were talking about beforehand, I need to start recording more episodes because I have through kind of middle of August, and then I don't have any more guests. recorded. So
Yeah, as of right now, we are recording this, and this is the next episode that's coming out.
Yeah, we haven't been in this position since the first podcast episode came out. So it's been a rough month for both of us. It's been busy. It's been very busy.
Been real busy.
Yeah, a kid will do that to you. But
yes,
that's cool, man. So you got involved in the podcast because of a suggestion from somebody else, essentially. What made you want to take your essentially, like, when you had a mental health focus on the page, and you decided to make that first Mental Monday post? What inspired you to make that the center of Radical is Calm instead of just like a something in the periphery?
again, I think it just goes back to trying to differentiate myself. I was trying to figure out ways to differentiate my content, just to not always be flat lay gun pictures. I also only have a limited amount of guns, because I was gonna say, like, oh, once Radical is Calm is profitable, I can use all this extra money to pay off the credit card debt, to pay for new firearms, which it hasn't at all. This is so just wanting to kind of get away from some of the gun pictures, which I enjoy taking. I just don't have that many cool, like, I literally have a handgun and an AR. They're not that fancy. They're not that cool, Gucci, tactical as many of the pages I follow. So just trying to find some other content that I could put out there.
Gear envy is a bitch.
It is. Gear shaming's a bitch.
Yeah, so, never gear shame. Never gear shame guys out there. All three of us know that, but I want you guys to know it too. Don't call someone poor for having shitty gear.
Unless there's an absolute safety violation, like something you see that is dangerous, then absolutely call the person out. Because
the other, okay, so I will.
Safety
also
doesn't care if you have cheap guns, and cheap is not bad, but if you have shitty guns and shitty practices.
Yeah. Well, and also, if you're one of these guys with a shit ton of money that just buys like an endless amount of cheap and bad stuff, not because it's all you can afford, but because you like to buy 10 of something instead of one good thing, then maybe not shaming, but probably just some helpful advice would be in order.
Helpful
exactly. Shaming. Respectfully call someone out in the DMs.
Exactly. A little constructive criticism. Yep, what did the socialists used to say? Call in, don't call out.
Is that what they said?
I think so.
What does that mean?
That means privately talk to someone instead of blasting them publicly.
Oh. Well, I can get on board with that.
Call in. Don't call
all
out.
Of our conservative listeners are going to call us
they
socialists.
Always called out though. That's the whole whole socialist thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, socialists.
Anyway,
I love you guys.
So anyway,
some things
I like
right. That. Sorry, RC.
You're good. So yeah, the mental health post was really just a way to differentiate the content, not contact. Differentiate the content, and I figured if it hit, I'd lean into it. If it didn't hit, then I'd figure something else out, and somehow, lo and behold, people resonated with it, so I just kept doing it week after week. And then it was after a hunting trip that I went on where I noticed I hadn't posted regularly, that somehow this cool grid format had been born on my feed. So I was like, oh shit, how do I do that again? So I started playing around and figured if I do one mental health Monday post and then a regular post, so 2 posts a week, it would continue on this sort of grid trend. So it really was born on accident.
Homie, I never noticed that, but I'm looking at your feed right now and you're right. That's so crazy. That's so cool.
And it was literally born out of an accident. I seriously don't know how that happened. I just noticed it after a couple weeks, like, oh shit, I gotta continue this.
Now, if you delete one of your old posts, it's going to fuck up all the ones after it.
Yeah, so I'd have to like delete an even amount of posts, right?
Yes.
So, which also helps me out too, because with just how busy at work I've been this year, only having to do 2 posts a week really helps me out, because one of them is already taken care of by Mental Monday, and then I only have to come up with one other post for the week. So, shout out to past me for helping present me.
And Yeah, you've been doing a pretty good job of that. I see, like you do a nice mix of merch promotion and like shouting out to other people and stuff like that. So it's definitely positive vibes going on the Radicals.com Instagram page for sure.
Yeah, that's what I love. I love the positive vibes, man. I gotta say, there's a lot of negativity in this space sometimes. Even when it comes from like a pragmatic place, but I love to see the positivity.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because we can just so very easily get stuck in our echo chamber, right? The government's out to get us, the other side's out to get us. Our guns are going to be taken away. That side hates me. This person hates me, doesn't understand me, right? It's and if we're only following people like that, it's very easy just to think that everyone thinks that way. So I just try to provide a positive boost to everyone's Instagram
A
feed,
little boost,
little boost.
a
Um,
little boosty boost,
New
so
boost goofing.
a little bit new boost, give a little pat on the boost.
yeah, man. So I just try to provide a little positive change to the community because I think there's just, as you said, there's a lot of negativity. So we all could use a little
So
positivity.
yeah, and in that respect, do you feel like you have fun, or like do you feel like this is like a serious mission you're on, or a little bit of both?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. Lately, it's felt just because I've been so busy at work. The page has felt a little bit more like work, just because I haven't had the creative juices as I have previously. But it's part fun, it's part mission. Just because, so I guess full transparency too. I feel like the past couple of weeks I've thought about taking a break from the page, just because I've been so bogged down with other things in life. But if
They will bog you,
they will bog you.
buddy. I tell you what.
But I think about some of the messages I've received regarding the podcast or regarding Mental Monday. I think about the conversations I've already had recorded. And I think it would be a disservice, especially to the folks that have taken time out of their lives to talk to me on the podcast. I at least need to put those episodes out first before I can even consider a break. But also, I mean, not to say that I'm the only source of mental health that someone may be consuming, but I think it's fair to say that I, there's at least a segment of my followers who I'm probably the only mental health person that they follow or mental health page that they follow.
That's
So,
definitely fair to say. Your
Yeah.
page is very unique in its combination of messages. It's if somebody's come across that, because not everybody's out here following every single Gunstagram page, right? So it is definitely fair to say that probably some of them have come across you, and that's it.
Yeah, and
right.
I'll say,
So,
no, I was just gonna say, I don't know how many thousand pages that our page follows, but I would say time and time again, yours is the only one at least consistently talking about it. And I think even more so, the only one that people expect, like that when they see a post from Radicals.com, it's either going to be something about the merch you're promoting or a Mental Health Monday post, with usually some pretty good discourse in the comments and in the like little caption area. So it's definitely that. Being said, though, I will say as somebody who has taken a break, if you feel that you should take a break, you should take a break. It is something that no amount of service to other people will make go away, and actually I found makes it worse because you feel almost obligated to do it, because of the positive messages you're getting back. Because I'll be honest, when somebody sends us a message like a positive comment, I save it, I screenshot it, and I save it to like I favorite it and leave it in my phone album because it means a lot. Like we love hearing good stuff from people, especially when we hear things like this. I was so happy to find this page. I thought the gun industry or the gun community was this, and this, but I'm really happy that I found you guys, and I'm sure you get similar things with people reaching out to you about mental health and just being super positive and super cool, and that kind of stuff makes it worth it when you're in the lulls. I will say, like emotionally and whatnot, but a break is good every now and then, and a lot of times you come back even better than before. because you feel like reinvigorated almost. It's like sleeping 8 hours when you've only been sleeping 4 for as long as you can remember. So I think you do a great job, and definitely remember that positivity and that stuff that you get from that reinforcement that you get from people who enjoy what you do. But you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people.
Yeah, exactly. You can't fill someone's cup when your cup is empty, or however you say that.
Uh-oh, someone's reading the Mental Monday post right off the page.
There you go.
That was one of them. I remember that one.
Yep. No, that's
that
a
one
good
was
point.
from memory, actually.
Oh, nice. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think, maybe I'll just get through the next 2 that I've recorded and then maybe take a break. That could be a good strategy. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll see.
And not that it's applicable with my experience here, but in general in my life, like don't be afraid to delegate, or automate if it makes your life easier. I know that everybody likes an Instagram page with a personal touch, but sometimes you have to manage where your energy's going.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I wish I could just record these episodes and put it up, but my OCD, well, that's, I guess,
For
probably
sure.
also insensitive to say because I don't have OCD, but OCD-ish brain, perfectionist brain.
Your perfectionism, yeah.
Yes, perfectionism.
Yeah.
Like, I want to sit there and edit out certain things.
Let me ask you this, RC. Were you a gifted kid?
By gifted, what do you mean?
Like, was he
gifted?
given to someone?
Were you like one of those kids where everyone was like, oh, you're so smart, you're gonna do great things. Anything you do is gonna be amazing.
I feel like my mom said that to me a lot, but not. It wasn't like. I don't think a majority of people said that. I feel like it was just my mom.
Oh, there you go. I had this. So I was, I'm a pretty middle of the road guy here. But when I was in like elementary school, I got like pulled out of. I had like above average grades, so I got like pulled out of normal class and then put into like special class with like other like high scorers or whatever, and we got like one-on-one instruction and all this like really positive feedback. Just like building us up, and all of us ended up just not, nothing real special. Not to say that I'm like, I do okay, but I think that there's this I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people that are perfectionists to the point of self-sabotage started out very young as children, being told like, you're gonna do like great things, you're gonna do big things later in life, as opposed to people just being like, hey, good effort, it's a good try, it's good, you put a lot of work into it, and I appreciate that.
I can see that actually. That's pretty crazy. I've never heard it phrased like that before at all. I feel like I'm having a mind blown moment, but that's true. I feel like just being told that from my mom, I could see how some of those perfectionist tendencies started because you don't want to let someone down because they said, oh, you're going to be the best at something or you're going to be amazing. So now like anything less than perfect is now a failure.
Yeah, it's like I don't even want to try because I don't want to disappoint myself and my mom or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Dang, that's crazy.
And yeah, it's tough because it's one of those things that I think about because I've got a kid now, and I always want to be like, amazing, wonderful, every time he does something, but I have to like reel it back and be like, okay, do I think I'm doing a good thing here, but maybe I'm like building him up for like disappointment later. I don't know.
I've been joking around with my daughter like that because she's a month old and she does things and my mom will be like, oh my God, she's so smart. I'm like, actually, she barely even notices contrast right now, Mom. So how about we don't necessarily build her up?
How about we not be unrealistic, Mom?
how about we have some realistic milestones here instead of thinking that she recognizes me or like does anything crazy like that at this point.
It's very difficult, it just, God, this is all the tangents in this podcast. It is very difficult when your kid does something that's like amazing.
This podcast is only tangents and cool guests.
And so it's like you read into it, right? You think that they've like understood your full sentence of words and it's like giving you a response in some secret baby language that only you can understand. No, it's not the case.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I remember when we so like well, we're getting off topic now. I apologize, but
Last tangent, then we come back.
last one. I think talking about toxic masculinity and people not talking about their feelings and shit like this, I realize this is a bigger thing than people let on to be, because men don't talk about this. But I had a problem connecting with my kid when she was born. Right off the bat, like it was like I was more worried about my wife than I was her, and everything that I did, from changing the diaper to feeding the baby and stuff like that, was really just to help my wife, not for the baby, because I felt more connection to my wife than I did to her. The baby.
That's totally normal. A lot of parents go through that.
But nobody talks about that. Everyone talks about how it's the greatest thing ever, how it's like your life changes immediately and you're absolutely in love.
Because if you don't gush about your kid,
then
if
you're a bad
not
parent.
Like positivity constantly, then you're a piece of shit. You're like, you're a bad parent. Why do you hate your kid?
I said this to people at work the other day, and the response from them was exactly the reason you don't talk about this in public with people. And that's also why people don't talk about it, and that's why people think that they have unrealistic expectations. I thought something was wrong with me, and then my wife. Everyone was like, "Don't tell your wife about that." I'm like, my wife was the one who pointed out these articles to me, showing me that it's normal. Like, sorry, your wife's such an asshole, or she has you have a bad relationship with her. But
we had a difficult birth, and every time we tried to talk about it to somebody, they'd be like, "Well, at least your son is born and is healthy, and everybody survived." It's like, yes,
dismisses
of course,
it completely.
But like, also, it was hard and traumatic, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I talking about realistic expectations, all my friends were like, it really changed for me when my daughter grabbed my hand for the first time. I'm like, you realize that's just the moral reflex, and she's doing that out of like obligation. Like she's not choosing to do that. She doesn't even know what she's doing. She doesn't know who you are.
Anything that touches her hand, they grasp.
It's like a Venus flytrap. Anyway.
RC, what do you think about kids?
I love her now. Just to put that out there, I'm not a complete piece of shit.
Of course.
Jeez, guys, who do you think I am?
Nobody in their right mind would doubt that.
Maybe some people, but.
Are you asking me just like kids in general, having kids?
Yeah, just the whole enchilada, man. Just radical is calm on kids.
Radical is kids.
No. Like is that something that I know that you're anonymous here, so it's probably strange to talk about, but having kids in such a strange time historically, like how do you feel about that?
I think about that a lot, because I think I'm closer to that stage of life than I'm not, right? So, but I think about that a lot, just with everything going on in the world, what the next few years could look like. Is that, it makes me think about, is that the right decision for me in my life? Is it? I don't know. I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there. But, is, I guess, to get back on the doomer train, like climate shit, world's kind of shit. Like, do you want to bring a kid into that world? I'd like to, what I mean? Like,
I totally get that, because, my wife and I kind of wrestled with this privately and with each other before having a kid. And that what we came to is that it's like, there's never going to be a great time. There's never going to be a perfect time to have a kid. I don't think there's ever even going to be a great time to have a kid. And yet, if nobody has kids, then, like, there's a lot of reasons to live, right? You don't need to live just to have kids. But I think that if you can, you have to just accept that the world's always going to be crazy, and there's always going to be history in the making. Countries fall apart, the world might fall apart, but
But how many times have people thought that? Also,
yeah, right.
You look back,
exactly.
Trump, saying like "Make America great again." When was the world ever great? Like, when was there ever a great time to have kids? There's never been a great time to have kids. There's always some shit going on, whether it's natural or human created, or, And
I think finding personal reasons not to have kids is fine, but I kind of had decided that it's kind of it's a little bit of a cop out for me personally to be like, oh, world's crazy.
I see that perspective. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll just cross that bridge when I get there.
I used to just say I didn't want kids because there was too much traffic.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Like, I don't want to add to it. I don't think there's any cop out personally, but I respect your opinion, Andrew, because I respect you as a person.
There you go.
Everyone's choices
You know,
are their own.
I will say the only people whose opinions I don't respect are Malthusian overpopulation panickers.
Who is that? Is that like Elon Musk
That's-
and his dad who are just having kids left and right?
Oh, he just. What just happened? Andrew, what just happened?
I have no idea, dude.
You just went no, and then completely disintegrated.
My browser just like crashed, man.
Oh my god.
That's all right, but I refreshed and I'm back. Okay, so no, it's like the opposite of Elon Musk's dad, who has as many babies as he wants with whoever he wants. It's like someone who's like, it's like Thanos, right? Like if you have kids, then you're part of the problem and you should be murdered for it, or something like that, you know? Or like there's not enough
Thanos never
kids, there's
said
not
that.
enough resources on this planet to support life, and so it's irresponsible to have more children.
Got
You know,
it. Okay, that makes
that's
sense.
like Malthusian. Because Tommy Malthus is the guy that came up with this idea that like we're gonna run out of resources.
Well,
It's-
even if you have like, I think there's a difference between having kids and like John and Kate plus 8 type thing. You know, if you have one kid, you're still decreasing the population technically.
sure, but the point is that
I missed the point. I'm sorry.
if no, it's okay. It even all right.
I'm sorry,
Regardless
RC.
regardless of how many kids you have, some fucking dude in the 1800s was not equipped to do the math to figure out whether or not this earth can sustain the amount of population that we have now. And
Correct.
smarter people than him have done the math and are like, hey, there's more than enough resources for everybody on this planet and then some. We cannot possibly hope to calculate the number of human beings that this planet can support. However,
That's why the rich are going to Mars.
there's right, but there's a problem of moving resources from place to place ethically, right?
Yes.
And also, climate change is a big problem. But whether you believe it's anthropogenic or not, climate change is a problem. But the resources are not a problem. And people, I always find that people who panic about overpopulation eventually kind of dovetail into like eugenics and like ethno-nationalism.
That is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
RC, this has I'm so glad we got the important stuff out of the way that actually had to do with you and why you're here and what your page is about. Because I believe our baby talk has completely hijacked this conversation.
All right. Anyways, so we were talking about having fun or taking yourself seriously. RC was saying it's starting to feel a little bit like work, but he's getting a lot of positive feedback, and so it's hard to separate. And you're talking about possibly taking a break after you release your next few episodes?
Potentially. We'll see how I feel after I release the next 2 episodes.
I think this is a really good test of being analytical and introspective and seeing what is going to serve you best, man. Because like you were saying, the positive messages really go a long way, but at what point are you no longer able to provide the service at the quality that the people who listen to you expect and that you want to provide?
Yeah, and I think part of it too is just like with the podcast, it takes me a while to edit, right? Like I timed myself the other day, and for a minute of audio, it took me 3 minutes to edit.
Oh yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, so
That's tough, man.
yeah, and I
do
think
you find that yours
That makes
run
about
long
sense.
too?
That makes sense.
they're between the original recordings are typically between an hour to an hour and a half. After editing, it's probably closer to like an hour ish. So, and kind of like my editing philosophy is, I remember I heard this podcast once from a former NPR host, and he said the reason why people on NPR sound so good is because those interviews are heavily edited. Like you never hear ums, you never hear awkward pauses. I didn't realize that NPR was edited. I thought it was like a live interview.
Do they edit out their ums, like their filler
Oh
words?
man, that's intense, dude. Somebody.
There's no way I could do that.
So that's what I do.
That must be one person's job. Like, all right, send it to the pass.
The unpass, exactly. So that's why my episodes take so long, is because I try my best to, where I can, because especially with the way I talk, right? Like, I kind of bleed words into one another, which I need to be better about. But I try to edit out if someone speaks with a lot of ums, if they say right a lot, if they say like a lot, I try to edit those out.
I feel like this is a personal attack.
No, but
he's coming after me. Y'all heard it.
And I feel bad because
he hasn't mentioned breathing into the microphone yet.
But that's also why my episodes come out every other week, is because it takes me so long to edit. Like, I can't do an every week episode just because I could just throw out the raw version, right? Fuck it, we'll do it live. But I feel like I've just been on this train for so long that I got to keep doing it.
Yeah. And it's tough, and we have the advantage of our first few episodes were a little rough. So we really set the tone and it's only goes up from there. Whereas once you like come out of the gate with this like highly polished presentation, it would feel weird, right, for you to sort of like backtrack into like a more raw territory. You'd almost have to set up like a secondary podcast brand to get into something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Radical is raw.
Radical is raw.
The raw unedited
Unedited chats with Radical is calm.
Exactly. The Raw Chats podcast.
The Raw Chats podcast. Yeah, you might be onto something there. If you ever need to get some content out there without spending too much time on it, I don't know. But it's all that balance, right? I mean, it's where a better way to also is every other week. Jordan does all the editing, and it definitely is. I don't want to say we try not to be like too like picking it apart because we're a little short on time. We're busy guys. But even then, it's like sometimes it's just like with this last episode. All of a sudden it's like Thursday,
the day before.
Yeah, we're like, oh shit, we haven't even listened to the raw version of it once.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, because we upload all of our stuff to Google, the cloud and whatnot. Not our nudes, just the.
Yeah, we share those
podcast.
on Signal.
Yeah, exactly. Signal's secure. But yeah, usually I'll send out the pretty much unedited podcast with just like some equalizing and stuff like that to Andrew, so you can listen to it and come back with feedback and stuff a couple days beforehand. And I think I sent that like 20 minutes before I actually uploaded the actual episode. Yeah. So it was at like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, sorry about that. I know you're not listening to this tonight.
There's always this process. We're always going back and forth like, oh man, I'm sorry. It's been a crazy week. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to this. And then the other one, whichever one of us, the other one's like, hey, don't worry about it, man. Don't stress out.
Yeah, no worries at all.
This is a low pressure situation.
I think you have you were talking about your OCD / perfectionist mentality earlier. I think you are just from having conversations with you and whatnot, and the fact that you edit out ums and likes and things like that. I know it's got to be tough for you to feel like an episode is ready, and the amount of work that it goes into doing stuff like that. But I also think that's why your content's so good. There are times
it's so clean.
It is. It's very consistent, and that's something we've struggled with because we're kind of all over the place. But I think when you're talking about the stuff that you're talking about, I think it's really beneficial to be consistent like that.
Gotta be consistent. Is there a question here, or are we just being like, good job, RC?
I guess I'm just shamelessly patting him on the back.
What do you think about that?
RC stroke sesh.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel great. No, it's nice to hear. I'm someone who, it's hard for me to take a compliment anyway, naturally. So I appreciate it.
Oh, I know what you mean.
There you go. There's anyway. Jordan,
Oh,
I know you
there he
have.
is, struggling with a compliment. You heard it.
Yep, I know Jordan. You have
And
work here in a sec. So what other questions did you want to get to before then?
I
That's
appreciate
it.
you remembering that because I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's all good. I have we have a couple things.
Oh, okay.
2 questions sent in by some followers.
Oh, the viewers, yeah.
Yes.
The viewers at home. Viewers like you make this podcast possible.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily mental health related, but they're also just kind of general questions for somebody who's into firearms. So figured it'd be cool to ask. First one, I think you actually asked me, 9 mil or 45, and Cartech 45 asked that question.
9 mil.
You like the?
It's so easy. It's such an easy question to answer.
I would agree.
Sorry,
But it's
45
preference.
guys.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Not sorry, 40 guys.
And actually, to bridge off of that, let me just ask the question. I don't know what kind of handgun you have, but this follower asks, is the 1911 more of a toy nowadays, or can it still work as a tool? I guess with it being so antiquated. Redwood Queer asked that.
So
Love that name.
Yeah, very interesting name.
Neat.
Yeah. This will probably tell my age a little bit, but I think it's more of a toy. It's a cool toy. Like, I think there's a lot of history with it, right? But it's kind of like the M1A. Like, I'm not going to carry a 1911 during my normal day. I want a 2011 real bad. Staccatos, Athenas, all very beautiful, beautiful, expensive handguns. But personally, I feel like I'm at least where I'm at with my life. I don't see myself buying too many toys. I definitely want to upgrade my handgun, but I would have to have a lot of extra money for me to want to buy a 1911. I really want a 2011 though, so I'm buying a 2011 first.
So that might be a compromise.
Yeah.
I will say, just to add to that.
Nobody asked you, Andrew.
Okay, I'll shut up.
No, please. I'm so sorry. Please answer.
No, there's definitely if there's a place that's like that bans magazines above 10 rounds, then it might make sense to carry something like a 1911 instead of a like a double stack that's capped at 10 rounds. Just saying.
Yeah, that could be true.
It's a highly specific situation that ideally should not exist. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, there are.
You do realize I live in California, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say where you lived because I didn't know if we were giving.
No, that's fine. I mean, people, if you order from,
what a surprise.
Yeah. If
no,
you order
I
from
did
RC,
know that, but
yeah.
But I didn't want to be like, hey, RC, you know, I don't want to like pin you down too much.
No, it's all good. People see where it ships from if they order anyway, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Fair. I made sure I forgot that when we first started this, it was my return address was my home address, and I was like, "That's a noob move."
Oh boy.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah, I had my cell phone number on for a little bit. I didn't realize it was on there. I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta take that off."
Nice. Yeah, we just got a Google Voice number finally. Not that it's shared anywhere, but in case somebody finds it, it's a better way to a customer service hotline where you will just get me. Hopefully between the hours of 9 and 5 Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, I will maybe just be sleeping. But before we go, we have a question to ask you that we ask all of our guests. And it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be firearm related. Doesn't have to be mental health related. But if you had a piece of advice to give the listeners about anything to make their lives better, easier, happier, more fulfilled, what would it be?
Go to therapy. No, I'm just kidding. But also go to therapy. I just feel like I had to say that. Let's think about that
right there.
Yeah. To make their lives better. Honestly, and I feel like I hope this isn't a cop-out answer just because I talk about it so much on my show with people. But honestly, like, talk to the other side. Whatever other side for you that may be, right? If you're left-leaning, talk to someone on the right. If you're right leaning, talk to someone on the left. Because I truly, and I think running RC has kind of really helped me realize this, right? We talked, actually, Jordan and I, on our episode, that obviously growing up in California, naturally growing up a bit more left leaning, but as you grow older, I think it's important to open your mind and be open to different viewpoints. And I feel like my stances on certain things have changed, others have not, whatever. But I think just having this page has really opened me up to the fact that, again, there are people in the two-way space that's fine if they're right leaning, but we have a lot in common. There are people who are right leaning who are open to mental health. There are people who are right leaning that I share similar values with. I would say I'm probably more center than I am left now, but there's a lot of cool people in this world. And if you're just going to shut yourself off and say, I'm only going to talk to people who look, think, sound like me, I think you're really robbing yourself of a fulfilling life, right? To tie it back into this fulfillment thing that we've been talking about since like the start of recording. There's some cool people out there. Like, why not put yourself out there and talk to them, right? I mean, you don't have to agree with everything that person believes in. And I don't think the point of the conversation is to convince the other side or the other person to your viewpoint, right? Because then you get into a pretty negative space, right? You're not open to just talking to someone, but talk to other people. Open yourself up, right? Like, that's actually, well,
Why not, man?
yeah, why not?
Why not?
Why not? So
That's so wholesome. That's so true too.
I
yeah,
like it.
talk to the other side in a civil. I think actually, Jordan, I think that's what you said, right? Opening yourself up to civil discourse and not just fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I that's definitely something I harp on constantly, probably too much sometimes, but you have to be open to people with different ideas, and assuming best intent goes a long way.
Because, like, two reasons, right? Like, doesn't it make sense to make progress with people where you agree, as opposed to just fighting them on the things that y'all disagree on? And then, like, number two, you'll never have like resolution if you're like angry about something, but you only ever have your like viewpoint on it, right? You'll never either realize you were wrong or convince someone else, to apologize, or at least to like understand what you're going through, right? By like never talking to somebody, who's like a part of that problem for you.
I agree.
Neat.
I don't know. I don't know how to. I just completely agree. I fully, wholeheartedly agree with that.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
Cool.
RC, we like your message. We like your brand.
Yeah.
We also like you as a person. This has been very cool. Having this. It's not a rad chat, but it was a rad chat.
Exactly. No, I appreciate
Nice.
it. I'm stoked to have come on and to meet you, Andrew, because we haven't met before or talked before, unless you're impersonating Jordan on Instagram.
No. I have
Not
my
yet.
own. I have my own profile. That's my actual real name.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because that's just how I roll on the internet.
There you go.
He's like, find me. Awesome.
There's pictures of my backyard on my page with my real name.
And his
I thought you were
baby.
going to say you're back.
Yes, his back.
Well, now
Now there will be.
I've been called out.
Awesome.
Now you ever see me at the beach and you're like, I know that back.
There you go.
You should get checked. That mole there wasn't there on Tuesday. Anyway.
Weird lump on your back.
All right, guys. We're going to end on that note. RC, it was awesome having you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. This was fun.
This was yeah,
Super cool.
always fun. And we'll have to have you on again sometime.
Yeah,
Definitely,
for
because I think there are a bunch of things that we haven't been able to talk about just for the sake of time. But I hope you enjoy your day and
Thanks, man.
keep doing your thing.
Jordan, have fun at work.
I will.
Both of you, check out any weird lumps.
Yes.
I can do that.
Awesome. And talk to someone you disagree with. Make that your mission this week.
Boom, and go to therapy.
Yes, and go to therapy.
Yes.
Awesome. Well,
There it is.
that'll be all from us. Better Way 2A,
Bye.
Andrew
Bye.
Jordan, and RC.
But not forever.
Not forever, just for now.